So I've been thinking about this election, this prediction video for a while, and I'm like, how the fuck am I gonna do this? Like, Mike Lindell and Cori Bush are literally the worst of the worst. I'm sure you can think of much worser candidates. Don't start doing that in the comments, please. I swear. Actually, do it. I love talking to y'all. It's amazing. That's why I have a Discord server, which you guys should check out. Go search through my community tab. It's a fun time. Or I'm sure someone will put it in the comment section below because I'm very lax and I don't know how to run a Discord server. Anyway, so we have the worst Republican candidate in Mike Lindell with his running mate Marjorie Taylor Greene versus the worst Democrat candidate Cori Bush with her running mate Dan McKee, who may or may not be governor post November because his race is becoming a lot more competitive as the day goes on because he's one of the worst rated governors in the country, least popular governors in the country. I mean, so this would be a very low turnout election. I would say there would be a huge shift of at least 20 points less in turnout. I'd say turnout in the low to mid 40s, maybe less than that. And turnout actually favors Republicans, or low turnout is the myth. I think, again, it's a myth, like how high turnout favors Democrats. If that was the case, Joe Biden would have won in a landslide in 2020. Of course, it's a myth. So, oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, so we're just going to start from east to west. We're going to talk about each state. Again, this is going to be very low turnout. States may or may not vote. Suburbs would would have the least amount of turnout out of the rural and urban areas. It would just like the media would be like, man, both these guys fucking suck. I can't imagine the mainstream left media, besides MSNBC, I can't see. I'm gonna say CNN. I can see MSNBC jerking off Cori Bush, and I can see Fox News jerking off Mike Lindell, but I can't see CNN jerking off either one. I can just see CNN be like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's nuke both their campaigns with negative media coverage. That sounds like a good idea. That's what I'd do if I ran a news organization and hated both candidates. But then again, I'd be too biased to run a news organization, so I'd never do that. So we're gonna start. Oh, Jesus Christ. We're gonna go through this. Maine at large, likely Democrat. Maine's first district, safe Democrat, and Maine's second would be likely Democrat. Uh, that I'd say 5 point victory for Lindell here, close to lean. Cori Bush would win Maine at large by 8 or 9. Maine is a very independent-minded state, very moderate, also very populist economically. They love protectionism, they love low taxes, and Cori Bush and Mike Lindell would be able to give that to them in straight. However, when we get to Cori Bush's social policy and defunding the police, like, they would hate it. Mike Lindell is actually very socially moderate. He's pro-LGBT, supports safe, legal, and rare abortion, which has turned to a moderate policy to far right. Some fucking how. Um, and let's see, what else is he moderate on? I'm trying to think. I have, like, cat hair on my computer because the cats jumped on my computer. But, Maine would be very split. We'd probably see a very strong third party for the Libertarian. I'd say Justin Amash would get a huge boost in this election, so you'd probably see him do very well if he was the Libertarian candidate. New Hampshire, I'd say that would be likely Democrat. Cori Bush and progressivism, very popular in the Northeast, and she also has Dan McKee as her running mate, so Vermont, easily safe Republican, or safe Democrat. Progressive stronghold. New York, upstate New York would trend heavily to the right this election, while downstate, not including Long Island, would trend heavy to the left. New York City would turn out for Cori Bush in straights. Massachusetts would be safe Democrat. Rhode Island, safe Democrat. Connecticut, New Jersey, even though I had New Jersey as competitive in the Jim Justice versus Cori Bush video, it won't be competitive here, mostly due to the northeastern Dan McKee factor and the fact that progressivism actually helps in the Northeast. Delaware, Maryland, and D.C. all go safe for Republican. Pennsylvania, that would go to Mike Lindell by a lean margin. Just because of Cori Bush's fracking policy, she would do very poorly outside of Philadelphia. She might even lose Chester County to Mike Lindell, only based off of low turnout. Obviously, it's not that these moderate Democrat voters are coming out to vote for Mike Lindell. That's absolutely not the case. They're just not turning out in Chester County. Might even go Mike Lindell on a technicality just because these Democrats aren't turning out. Again, the West Pennsylvania, that goes to Lindell. Outside of Erie County on the west side of Pennsylvania, we'll see moderately high turnout for Mike Lindell due to his energy policies. Ohio would be safe Republican here. West Virginia safe. Virginia, I'm gonna say tilt Republican again. Like the Northwest, actually, I'm gonna say tilt Democrat because of Nova. Nova would turn out high for Cori Bush. Again, the establishment Democrats, these establishmentarian Democrats wouldn't turn out. Again, Mike Lindell is just far too right. Is too far right. It's just I don't want to say well. I guess he is far right because of the whole election thing, saying there was fraud in every single state, and Trump was a 538 landslide or what the fuck ever. Um, so Cori Bush, Mike Lindell. Mike Lindell would most likely narrowly win the suburbs here. We'd probably see a suburban turnout of like 20% because that's how bad these two are. If suburbs do turn out, they might turn out for Cori or Mike Lindell. Depends on the state, I guess. They might turn out for Mike Lindell, or they'd vote third party. North Carolina, that's lean Democrat or lean Republican. Again, a very military-heavy state, and Cori Bush, of course, wanting to, defund the military, using the code words reallocate is not going to be popular. Mike Lindell would hit her over the head with that. South Carolina would be safe. Actually, would be likely because the black turnout would go for Cori Bush. Mike Lindell might do better with black voters than Trump did, just because black voters are very conservative. However, they focus more on economic policy. They should economic policy trump social policy when it comes to the black community, and blacks are very economically progressive. So the black voters in South Carolina would go in for Cori Bush. Mike Lindell would, kind of hit the fan. Would hit the fan in South Carolina if Lindell was a nominee, because moderate Republicans would not turn out to support Mike Lindell. So Lindell would win South Carolina by like 8 points. Georgia, Atlanta would turn out heavy for Cori Bush. She'd win it by 2 points. Again, suburbs would go for Mike Lindell very narrowly, or a third party candidate if you want to do that. Again, I do think we'd have a strong third party candidate, but I'm not doing that here because that's not what this video is about. Florida, that would be safe Republican. Again, suburbs aren't turning out for Cori Bush. Miami-Dade would flip red, while Pinellas and whatever the other county is, Pinellas in the other county. They would probably go to Cori. They'd probably go to Lindell. It'd probably be a 12-point victory for Mike Lindell in the state, just because Cuban Americans and Hispanics would turn out for Mike Lindell heavy over Cori Bush, because Cori Bush would do poorly outside of college-educated whites and black voters. Everywhere else, she gets fucking crushed. Mike Lindell wins Alabama. Mississippi goes likely. Probably a 9-point victory again. We have the Western Black Belt here in Mississippi. They would turn out heavily for Cori Bush because of her economically progressive policy. And of course, defund the police would not do well with black voters, but I think her other economic policies would trump that. I guarantee you Cori Bush would run on defunding the police as a nationwide policy, as our main platform, while Mike Lindell would be election integrity. Louisiana, I don't think Louisiana's or New Orleans would be big enough for the state to go likely. It'd be a 12-point victory for Mike Lindell. Arkansas, that goes safe Republican. It trended to the right in 2020. It probably is a 20-point victory for Mike Lindell. Tennessee, safe. Kentucky, safe. Missouri, that would be safe. As we know, St. Louis isn't big enough, or Kansas City. They're not big enough right now to make the state competitive, so they're not going to be big enough in 2024 to make the state competitive. So even if Cori Bush represents St. Louis for some reason, a city that has one of the highest crime rates in the country, and she's wanting to fund the police, insane. Indiana, that'd be safe Republican, be a 15-point victory. Illinois, I think in Chicago she would do very well, but out in the Chicago suburbs, she'd get fucking crushed by a third party or Mike Lindell. So I'm going to say this is likely Democrat. She ends up winning it by 8 points. Michigan, I'm going to say lean Democrat, a 2-point victory for her in the state. She'd do very well in Detroit, unless James Craig were to come out and for some reason endorse Mike Lindell, which I doubt, because James Craig very popular in Detroit despite being a Republican. I think he would have crushed Gretchen Whitmer if he was the nominee, but of course he had to do the fraudulent vote thing. Again, she'd do very well with black voters in Detroit, which would keep her head above the water in Michigan, and I could see Mike Lindell doing very poorly in Macomb County and Kent, Muskogee, and the county up here, this Tip County right here. I think that's Kent County. I could be wrong. Wisconsin, that is going to be likely Democrat again. Cori Bush or Mike Lindell would hit Cori Bush on her favorability of the George Floyd riots, which she supported it, and Kenosha would turn out hard. The suburbs in Wisconsin would turn out hard against Cori Bush, and Madison and Milwaukee is not big enough for her to, just win those two areas and, you know, and hold the state. So Mike Lindell would win here by 5 or 6 points. Iowa, that would be safe Republican. That'd be a 10-point victory here for Mike Lindell. Minnesota, that'd be likely Democrat. Cori Bush should do very well in Minneapolis. Uh, similar to Ilhan Omar, that's her district. So, and they're just, I hate to talk bad about people, but like Minneapolis is a weird place, full of weird people. Uh, I kind of respect them for it, but the Dakotas, Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, they all would be safe. All of Nebraska except the second district, which would go lean Democrat, would or lean Republican, would go to Mike Lindell. Kansas, that would go likely Republican. Kansas is full of white college educated voters, and Cori Bush would do very well with those kind of voters against Mike Lindell. I think she would win. She would lose the state by 6 because those voters will not go for Mike Lindell. Oklahoma, that goes safe Republican. Texas would too. Texas, again, we'd see a lot of low suburbs. Hispanics in Rio Grande Valley would go out for Mike Lindell because Cori Bush would bottom out with Hispanic voters, in my opinion, or bottom out in 2024 terms. Not like she'd get third, not like she'd go from winning, like Democrats would go winning 60% of then to winning only 30. No, nothing like that. Nothing like that. She'd bottom out in a realistic term. Like she'd win like 55, 50% of Hispanics. So there you go. So she'd lose Texas by a safe margin, probably 11 points to Mike Lindell. Colorado, that would be shit. Colorado would be safe Democrat. Denver, very big, very progressive. Cori Bush would do very well here. New Mexico, that would go tilt to Mike Lindell. Again, the Hispanic bottoming out with Hispanics isn't going to do well for her in, Arizona, where she loses by a likely margin, as well as Nevada, which would also be likely. Again, this doesn't have anything to do with Mike Lindell being. I've talked about Cori Bush a lot in this video. Jesus Christ, this is supposed to be like a, you know, this is supposed to be kind of like a. I talk about Cori Bush a lot in this video. I'm sorry. So, we'll talk. Don't worry, I'm talking about Mike Lindell here in a second. But, both Mike Lindell would still do very well in the rural areas enough to win these states by. He'd win Nevada by 5 and Arizona by 8. So, if you want to know why Arizona would be likely and not safe, you gotta take a look at the 2018 gubernatorial race, a progressive versus a right-wing moderate. Right-wing Republican Ducey won by like 11, but Lindell isn't that good of enough of a candidate to win by God knows how much. Utah would be likely Republican as well. Again, a lot of white college-educated voters here. Lindell would realistically bottom out with those voters here in Utah. Lindell wins it by 8. The West Coast, the entirety of the West Coast would go safe for Democrat. Again, the very progressive area, Seattle, Portland, the coastal elites in California, they would heavily go to Cori Bush. Mike Lindell wins this election, by the way, and you might disagree. I'm kind of skeptical on it myself because look at this fucking map; it's atrocious. Cori Bush, he wins Hawaii, and Alaska, I'm going to say Alaska's lean Republican. Again, urban voters in Alaska are very Republican, and I doubt they'd turn out for Mike Lindell. While rural voters are very Democrat, they would turn out for Cori Bush. I think Lindell wins it by 4 in this state. So this is the god-awful final map of the election, probably low to mid-40s in percentage turnout. Mike Lindell wins 287 electoral votes to Cori Bush's 251 electoral votes. I can just show. No, because that's hard to do. Never mind. If you guys want a video where I do a third-party this election with a third-party candidate, tell me. I might do it. So, this is the chaotic one saying, peace.